Okay, this video is here to help you guys understand what you're expected to do and give you some help for your college research paper assignment. You have 2 to 3 weeks to work on this assignment, and you might want to return to this video as you're going along on your research and during the process of writing this paper and finding the articles you're going to use. You can return back to this video and hopefully it'll offer you a little bit of help. I want to start out by talking about the word research. And notice here we're zooming in on this word re. When you look at the word research, it's literally saying to search again. Research. And I think that's an excellent way to characterize what it is you have to do, and the difficult and challenging part of writing a good research paper is you have to search for great sources, and usually it takes a while to find the ones you're looking for. You have to search, and you have to search again. Search and search again. Research. So keep that in mind while you're doing your research. You're not going to find what you're looking for on the first try. It takes some digging, it takes some reading, it takes some sifting. But if you follow along with some of the process that I go through here, and you follow along with some of the recommended strategies I show you, it should make the process as pain-free as possible. Okay, I'm going to start out by going through some general guidelines for this research paper, some things you need to know, and then the second part of this video I'll actually show you how to access the databases that we're going to use for our research, and good ways to compile that information, and kind of a process that you need to go through. So here are some general guidelines. First of all, use trusted sources. That means the only sources you're allowed to use for this assignment, and according to the assignment, you're supposed to use at least 3 different sources. Those sources must be from the approved databases that I'll show you in a second, and usually most of them are going to be academic journal articles. You might have a few magazine articles, but for the most part, you're going to be pulling articles from things called academic journals. Those are the most trusted and accepted sources. For my particular assignment and for our class, all the sources will come from one of these 2 databases, either Questia School or EBSCOhost. These are the only 2 choices that you have for these sources. So Questia School looks something like this, and I'll show you it. I'll show you how to access it and how to search on it in a little bit here. But that's Questia School. And then also EBSCOhost, which looks something like this, and I'll also show you how to access EBSCOhost. But those are the only 2 places you'll be able to get articles from. The second general guideline is that you definitely should not use and will not be permitted to use Google or Wikipedia as sources. Okay, there's a really good reason why. These things are useful and maybe helping you get ideas about your topic. It might give you a direction to go on, maybe a search phrase to use. So they're good for helping you generate ideas, but they are not legit sources themselves. The reason is because they're not academically reviewed by professors and people in the field, and really too many people have access to something like Wikipedia or putting just a random web page up that they can say pretty much whatever they want. They can lie about information, and there's no way to know, fact check them. Whereas the academic journal articles and databases that we're going through from, most of the information from those have been peer reviewed. People in the field have looked at them, people have examined them. The facts are actual facts for the most part. Just to give you an example of what we're talking about here, this is an article that came out in USA Today about a false Wikipedia biography. Okay, so this happens all the time. I use Wikipedia a lot myself just for kind of getting some basic information, but it's not necessarily a trusted source. This article talks about a biography of a man that had some just blatant untrue things about him in his Wikipedia biography, and it was proven to be false. And that happens pretty regularly. That's why we don't use those as trusted sources. In fact, just to prove a point, a few years ago, I updated a Wikipedia page with some false information about a friend of mine, which now I kind of feel bad about. But it was to prove a point that Wikipedia is not a trusted source, and if I can do it, then we know we can't really trust Wikipedia because you can't really trust Mr. Singleton. I'm just kidding. You can trust me most of the time. Let's move on. Another guideline goes back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, and that is you're going to have to try to search for different phrases. Look for different ways to word what you're looking for. You might put something in and find a few articles, but you might have to go back and change the phrase or reword it or think of a different way to say it. One of the things that we're going to do during this project is many of you will be writing about the same topics. You'll be making arguments similar to some of our other AP students. I'm going to give you guys space in the classroom on the boards to kind of meet up and compare notes with some of your classmates that are searching for the same things. And if they find an article that's really good or that they find a search phrase that really brings up the kind of articles you're looking for, they're going to be able to share it in those areas and you'll be able to go look at that for help as well. But this goes back to the word research itself. Remember, research means to search and then search again. I'm telling you right now, the first phrase you type in will not necessarily bring you the articles that you're looking for. You're going to have to go back, think, work through it. That's a part of what this assignment is asking you to do. I'm asking you to practice researching. So if you don't find something the first time, don't give up. A lot of us aren't used to going back and having to really look and work at it. And I'm going to require you to do that here. So push yourself, don't settle, keep trying to find different phrases, and we'll try to help each other out in that as well. The final bit of guideline that I'd like to give is to collect all of your source information as you go. Do not try and go back and find out the information. One of the big requirements for this research paper is that it's in something called MLA format, Modern Language Association, and that requires you to have a certain font with certain spaces and certain headings and titles. But one of the main things it has is that you have to cite the sources you use. You have to use internal citation or parenthetical citation, and you also have to have a works cited page. One of the things that gets students is they don't gather this information while they research, so they get to the end of writing this awesome paper and then they have to scramble to go find all their citation information. Don't let this happen to you. Follow the steps that I'm about to show you and you'll be able to have that information as you go, and once you get that source you'll be good to go and won't have to try to scramble to find it again. So this is an example of an article from an academic journal that is about cyberbullying, and this article I looked up in Questia School. So let's say that we found this article and we wanted to use a specific quote from it in our paper, right? That's how we use a source, is we find something that supports our argument and we can actually quote that just like we did in the AP synthesis essay. Okay, so let's say that we found this and there's a particular part of it that we really like and we want to use. Here's what you should do. Let's say we're reading through this article and we want to use this quote. Districts are realizing that integrating internet safety education into curriculum isn't enough. They must also address cyberbullying in their conduct and discipline codes. I want you to notice on this page, so if you chose to use this quote, you could look already and see that there's some information here. The author's name, the name of the journal, the date, right, the title of the article. Those are all things that you're going to need along with some other things. But let's say you wanted to use this quote, so you copied it, and then I would recommend actually pasting it into your working Microsoft Word document. When I was in college, I would always, when I was writing a paper, have a Word document open on my desktop while I was studying and trying to find articles, and when I found a quotation that I liked and thought I might want to use, I copied the quote in like this. You'll notice that's the direct quote from the article, but I didn't stop there because there's a lot of things I need to do to this quote before I can use it in the actual paper, and there's a lot of information I need about the source. So let's say you copy it down like that in your Word document, And then I would go ahead and put that quote in quotation marks with my introductory phrase and my internal parenthetical citation. So you'll notice I added this introductory phrase at the beginning. In his article exploring the topic, Rydell explains, right? I added my quotation marks in there, and I added my parenthetical citation, okay, in MLA format. So really, this quote is ready to be dropped into the rest of my paper. I could literally start writing the rest of my paper around this quote because I already went ahead and formatted the quotation the way it needed to be formatted. With the quotation marks, with the introductory phrase, and all of that. So you could imagine once you have that done, before you move on, opening back up the window you had from Questia and clicking to get the full information that you need for the works cited page. And there you go. Before you left this article, you could get all of the info you need for the works cited. Both this and EBSCOhost provide all that information for you. All you have to do is copy it down. So look, here's the title of the article, okay? Who wrote it? It's an academic journal article. It tells you where it's from, which journal. It tells you the volume and issue number. Okay? It tells you when it was written down here. It even tells you some different subjects that it's tagged as, right? Online social networks, educational aspects. Now, I'll give you another hint. These things are really helpful in your research. Let's say you really liked this article that you found, that it really hit on and proved the point of your topic, but it's the only one you found. You might look at some of these topic headings, these subject headings, and look and see if searching for these phrases helps you find more about your topic. That's a good way to find other articles that are on what you're looking for. Sometimes we may not use the same phrase or wording about the topic that we're writing about as most of the academic community out there is using. So a lot of the trick is finding that phrase, that phrase or wording that's they're using most often in the academic world, and then once you find that phrase, you start finding all the articles that you could use on that topic. So don't be afraid to use kind of those hints to search for other articles. So before you move away from that Word document, and before you should consider yourself as having gotten a source, and actually before I'll give you a grade for having one of your sources, you will need all of this stuff. You will need, first, the quote that you want to use from the source with an introductory phrase, with the proper punctuation, with the internal citation all set up and ready to go, and then also all of the information from that source that you'll need for the works cited page already in MLA format. And you already have information for a website that will show you all you need to know about the MLA format, right? You have the author's last name, the author's first name, the date that it's published, right? We got all this from Questia already. The title of the article, then in italics here, the title of the actual journal publication that it came from, along with the volume and issue number and the page numbers that it appear on. Once you have all that information, this counts as having one source. And I just kind of freaked myself out because this looks like kind of a crazy face for someone here, right? Isn't this, am I imagining things, or does this look like a person? Okay, I'm having too much fun with this. Let's move on. The point is if you will do these things as you go along, when you find a quote you want to use, if you will go through this process immediately, it'll make it so much easier when you're actually writing your paper. Take a look. Let's imagine now that you're writing your actual paper, and you can see here. Here is our original quote from that source. You can see it appearing in the midst of our own writing. See, there's our introductory phrase that we wrote in there. Here's some writing beforehand leading up to it because we're writing around this quote with our own stuff. Remember, there's our internal citation that we added, the parenthetical citation. And then here's some more of our writing. So it just wraps right around the quote that we found from that source. And then, of course, when we get time to do our works cited page, we already have the citation in here in the proper format. So it saves us a lot of pain in the neck later on. And if you're playing along, yes, this could make a face as well if we wanted to, right? Kind of looks like a really whack version of Homer Simpson. I'm not sure. Okay, anyway, having too much fun with this. If you'll use that process for writing your sources and finding your sources, it'll make writing this research paper so much easier because you'll save yourself time in the end. Take the time to get all the information and do it right immediately when you find a quote, and it'll pay off in the long run. So before we finish off here, I wanted to actually show you how using the internet you can access these databases for our school. Let's take a look. Okay, we're on our computer desktop here, and we'll need to launch Internet Explorer down at the bottom. And once you get Internet Explorer open, it should open up our district website, which you'll notice we have a new district website. It just got updated right now. I don't know when you're watching this video, but it literally just became the new website right now. So you're witnessing history, but let's move on. What I'm going to have you do is the easiest way to access our online resources is through our class website. So the easiest way to access that is to just type in our class web address, mattonetone.wix.com/Mr. Singleton. And that should bring up our class website. Takes a minute to load because it's awesome, right? And the first thing I want to draw your attention to here is that right on the front page of the class website, I have what we're working on, and then you'll look, there's some little stickies on here, and these different notes will take you to everything you need during the next few weeks as we work on this research paper, all right? This is actually the guidelines and description of the assignment along with all the due dates. You can click on that and download it. This gives you some quick help with the MLA format. This gives you some quick help with saving things or technical difficulties on your computer. This actually takes you to the video you're watching right now. That's kind of crazy. It's like that movie Inception. You could click on this and I don't know what would happen. But the parts I want to draw your attention to are these top two. And I'm going to start by showing you where it says click here for the OWL at Purdue MLA. One of the big aspects of this assignment is making sure it's an MLA format. Not only do I have that MLA help page, but if you click on this, it will take you to Purdue University's website. And Purdue has an online writing lab, and this will actually open up to the MLA formatting and style guide immediately, and it will tell you exactly what format it needs to be in. It gives you visual examples of how it should look and what needs to be there. Some of the most helpful parts of this website are down here where it has the MLA sample works cited page. Your works cited page should look a lot like this one. In fact, it should look exactly like this works cited. You'll notice that what parts are indented and what parts aren't, and that gives you an idea exactly of what your works cited page looks like. Also helpful are MLA works cited periodicals. That just periodicals just means articles, and that'll include how to do citations for magazine articles, and then really what we're trying to get mostly are those academic journal articles, and this will provide how to do those as well. If you look, article in a magazine, newspaper, review, editorial, most of ours are going to be an article in a scholarly journal. It'll show you exactly what goes in each part there and how it should look. You should also look at MLA formatting for quotations. You'll see here it'll show you how you should format a short quotation. Okay, it'll show you how to format longer quotations. All right, if you'll notice, there's different rules for when a quotation goes over several lines. Notice it's no longer in quotation marks and it's set off and indented. So this will tell you all the rules that you need to know in order to have that paper in MLA format. Finally, I think it's really helpful to see the whole MLA sample paper. So that's a good one to take a look at. And as you can see, then it will actually give you a sample MLA paper with notations on it as what things need to be, where it needs to be indented, what kind of heading you need to have. It needs to be double spaced, what font, right? It goes through the whole thing. It gives you a sample paper. It gives you an idea of exactly what that thing needs to look like, including, of course, the works cited at the end. So that's a very helpful tool for you to use, and you get access to that through our class website. That should get you started on this research paper. Be sure to check back a little bit later on for our second research paper video where we'll examine how to access the online resources and what you need to do once you're there, how to search on them, how to log into them, and that sort of thing. That video will be up a little bit later on this week, and I hope it's helpful.